One of the most important things to do is to make sure your child understands the difference between sadness and depression. Now, sadness lasts minutes, hours, or days, and is usually a response to something bad that's happened to you. Depression is a pervasive and relentless sense of despair that can take away the desire for a young person to even live. Most of us live our lives like this. We have, in fact, ups and downs. We might, in fact, have a situation where you fall in love. You might basically break up. You might have a football team that wins. So life is full of ups and downs, and that's normal. With depression, you're feeling miserable most of the day, most of the time. You spend most of your time feeling sad. There are other types of depression, such as this bipolar disorder, where the feelings of sadness alternate with feelings of euphoria, where you speak very fast, you have orgies of shopping and food and sex, and it's a very, very disturbing illness. But what you have to understand is that it is most common in middle adolescence. We see 1 in 5 young people experiencing a depressive disorder by the age of 18. It's now referred to as the common cold of psychiatry. The sad news is that most sufferers tell us that there are delays of somewhere between 5 to 15 years before they receive the treatment and care they need. Now, that's very, very sad. That's a long time to suffer from an illness which is inherently treatable. So what we have to do is we have to look at this illness in terms of a mood spectrum. So what we have is, in the middle here, normal sadness. On either side at the extremes, you have the unipolar depression, and on the other side, you have the manic depressive illnesses. So what you have to understand is that most young people won't just have depression. They'll often have a component of anxiety, and most kids with an anxiety disorder will have some depression. So these conditions can co-occur. Sadly, because the young people might not realize what's happening to them, they might resort to alcohol or other drugs to make them feel better. So quite often we see a third problem, which is the substance use disorder. So what does depression look like in young people? Well, you'll have a young person who was sailing along okay, but suddenly they've become persistently sad and downhearted. They don't bounce back in the way that they used to. What we find is that they're quite often on the verge of tears, and it doesn't matter what you say or do, they'll still be very, very teary. One of the really important signs of a depressed young person is that they will lose interest in life. So the things that used to give them pleasure no longer do. They will become lethargic or apathetic. They'll have trouble thinking and concentrating. You'll actually find that they'll have a decline in academic performance at school. So they've been going along quite well, and suddenly the grades plummet. We also know that at a time when they want to spend as much time as possible with their friends, suddenly they withdraw from most, but not all, their friends. They'll spend a lot of time in their rooms. Psychologists refer to this as introspective withdrawal, or they'll just sit on the computer all day. And some will medicate with alcohol or other drugs. We also know that they can be physically unwell. These kids may often turn up to their doctors with headaches, other aches and pains. They'll be very, very tired. They'll lack energy. They'll certainly talk about either weight gain or weight loss, and they'll have distinct patterns of sleep disturbance. They will go to bed at night but be unable to fall asleep, so they'll lie awake for many hours. Even if they do sleep, you'll find that many of these young people will wake frequently during the night. Some will get stuck in a pattern of early morning waking, very, very worrying and very concerning. What we know is that very depressed young people will also behave in strange ways that are unusual. You'll find that the key feature of depressed young people is irritability, more so than sadness. and they will be feeling terribly, terribly put upon. Everything will be too much trouble. They will basically generalize that everyone's stupid, that basically everybody is out to get them. There'll be a lot of angry outbursts. There'll be slamming of doors. This will not be a pleasant time for you. People who are depressed are not easy to live with, but you have to remember you're the adult and they are the young person. Sadly, with severe depression, they can get these unrelenting, gloomy thoughts. Thoughts of death can become their constant companion. The research shows that 90% of the young people who take their own lives have a mental health problem, and this is by far and away the most common mental health problem, depression. They'll have this mounting sense of frustration, of fear, hopelessness, worthlessness, and quite often you'll find that these young people will see death as a problem-solving device. So we need to recognize depressive symptoms, we need to get them checked out, and we need to get them treated. Many young families end up like this cartoon. You've got the family watching a TV program about a youth crisis, but they're not seeing the writing on the wall in their own home.